Bienvenidas, comadres and friends, to our first 2020 teleconference podcast. This is Julia Abrantes of Las Comadres para las Americas, submission coordinator for our Comadres and Friends National Latino Book Club. Our usual teleconference introducer, Karen Gonzalez of our Denver Book Club, is unable to join us at this time. We want to acknowledge the loss of her dad recently. We wish her strength and serenity and send prayers and love. We want to remind you all that all 2018 and 2019 podcasts are now uploaded to our website. Feel free to download to listen to any of your favorite interviews. Mil gracias to Comadre Dora for doing this labor of love for us. Our 2020 January teleconference features Comadre Sofía Segovia, author of The Murmur of the Bees, translated by Simone Bruni, and Comadrex Vita Ayala, author of Livewire, Fugitive, a graphic novel. But first, a bit of history about our book club. Our first book club gathering was in July 2004 in New York at Comadre Maria Ferrer's apartment. After our hiatus, it was restarted in March 2007. Comadre Johanna Castillo, at that time national organizer of the book club and former Comadres board member, said, "We are launching the book club to promote the work of Latino authors to every book lover, to bring our community to bookstores, and to support our writers. Now, more than ever, we need to support our Latinx writers." We encourage you to join our local book club in your city. We have clubs in 12 cities, and Austin has 3 area book clubs. If your city doesn't have one, why not help us start one? For more information about our book club, please visit our website at latinolit.com. These teleconferences, Reading with Las Comadres, started in 2008, although we actually started the teleconferences in October of 2006. We are in our 14th year. We created the Reading with Las Comadres teleconference and book club in an effort to entice everyone to read more about Latino authors, to learn about Latino roots and different perspectives on Latino cultures and heritage. Our book club and teleconferences are open to all, not just Latinos. We are creating a space for everyone to explore the Latino writer's mind and soul as portrayed through the written word. So please invite others to join us. We are grateful to the publishers, Amazon Crossing and Valiant, for their support of this teleconference with free books. For more information about the authors and publishers, please visit our website at latinolit.com. Comadre Sofía Segovia will be interviewed by Comadre Stephanie Sanchez, and we'll meet Comadre Vita Ayala, who will be interviewed by yours truly when we start our conversations with interview. Now, let's meet Sofía. Sofía Segovia was born in Monterrey, Mexico. She studied communications at Universidad de Monterrey, thinking mistakenly that she would be a journalist, but fiction is her first love. A creative writing teacher, she has also been a ghostwriter and communications director for local political campaigns and has written several plays for local theater. Her novels include Noche de Huracán, Night of the Hurricane, El Murmur de las Abejas, The Murmur of the Bees, which was called the Literary Discovery of the Year by Penguin Random House and named Novel of the Year by iTunes, and Huracán. Sofía likes to travel the world, but she loves coming home to her husband, 3 children, 2 dogs, and a cat. She writes her best surrounded and inspired by their joyous chaos. Our interviewer, Stephanie Sanchez, was born in Santa Monica, California. She enjoys a hike on a cool day and the kiss of the ocean breeze on a sunny one. She is the mother of 3 and an advocate for continuous learning. She loves finding herself in a good book and losing herself in the reality of life. Comadre Stephanie, take it away.
Hi, thank you. Hi, Sofía.
Hi, Stephanie. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course, this is my first interview ever, so forgive me if I stumble on my words, but I'm going to try my best.
I'm sure we'll manage. I'm nervous too.
Okay. So I got a few questions here. I had a few cheat sheets. They that they helped me with, but here we go, okay?
Yeah.
So the first question is, when did you first realize you wanted to be a writer?
Well, being a writer was very natural for me, even when I was a little child. But being a writer is not the same as realizing you can be a novelist, that you can dream of being a novelist. So that took me longer. But the writing thing, I knew when I was really young. The thing was that I was born and lived in a city that didn't have library, bookstores, or readers, and it took me a while to realize that someone from Monterrey could be a novelist too. So I was 35 by the time I started writing my first novel. Before that, I wrote different things, but it took me a while, but it's never too late.
Right. I see that. What to you, what would be the first book that you could remember that kind of sparked that imagination in you? Can you think of a book when you were little or was it when you were older?
The Cat in the Hat.
Really?
Yeah. That was, it still gives me chills. I was very scared. But I still love Dr. Seuss, and I still read to my children all his books, and I love the messages. I think I understand them more even at this age. So I still, every time I see a Dr. Seuss book, I pick it up. I like it. And still, many books, but Dr. Seuss is my first memory of becoming a reader.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so how long does it take you to write a book?
So the first book took me 3 years. The second book also 3 years. My third novel, Peregrinos, that one took me 4.5 months, and it's my longest book. It's just that I didn't do anything else. I just wrote 16 hours a day, like in a frenzy, and I was able to finish it on time. And that's my latest novel. Right now, I'm writing my newest novel. It's beginning, so I don't know how long it will take me. I hope it doesn't take me 3 years.
And how do you get your information or your ideas for your books? Do you research, or where did they come from?
Well, I think it's the first spark comes through life and through observation and through this to talk about something that I feel that must be talked about or read about, and then comes the research. I do a lot of research for my novels, especially the 3 latest ones. They're historical fiction or more fiction setting, a historical setting, and so I do go into a lot of research. But the first thing is, what's my message? I want to get the message out there. Maybe it's a message in a bottle. But I always hope for someone to find that message and to take it in and maybe meet in the middle, start a conversation, and touch people's minds or touch their hearts. That's what I hope for.
And what was the message you wanted in this book that you wanted your readers to feel?
For the Murmur of Bees.
Yes.
I think that the most important message is that we need to remember who we are, where we come from. And it's a novel that starts with an old man that doesn't remember everything. He wants to go back to his roots. And on the way there, he starts to gather all his memories. And by the end, he gets it, right? He's very old, and well, I wanted him to symbolize the things we forget on purpose, and the voyage we should take to try to remember, especially when this book is also about cutting your roots, having to leave because there's violence and you have to leave your identity and your roots and everything and move somewhere else and reinvent yourself. And the pain of that sometimes moves you to try to forget because memories can be very painful.
Correct.
And so that's what happened to this old man's family, and he has suppressed all these memories because they are painful. And what he is doing right now is trying to discover all the memories, not only his own, but his mother and his father's, and Simonopio's, who is the main character in the novel, and I think that's the main message. But then it comes down to you have to remember because family is important, and I think that's what we really know in our culture. Family is important, and knowing your roots is important, and so I think that's why this book has touched so many readers.
Right. So how I feel reading this book is like no matter how far we get, we always come back to where we begin.
Yes, exactly. Even if you're far away, if you remember, you get to be the owner of your past and also the present and the future, I think.
Right. That's beautiful. Very beautiful. Okay. So the next thing we're going to ask you is, what is the significance of the title for you? Would you have given it any different title, or is it because of the bees were so important in the book, it could never be a different name?
The bees were so important in this story.
Right.
And it's about them, but it's also about who listens to them, right?
Right.
And so there's a message in the novel about listening to life, because life speaks to us. And so the bees have Simonopio listening to them, understanding their message, and trying to follow where they live. But it's also about, I think we all have our own murmur inside. And sometimes life is so noisy, and it takes us away from our own murmurs. And sometimes we just have to stop and listen. And listen to the murmur of bees because they're out there and they're life. They are life. Really, they're the future.
They are, literally. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And while I was writing this novel, I discovered that I went into research. I went to research them and realized that they're in so much trouble. And when they're in trouble, we are in trouble. So there's a message there, but especially we have our own murmur, and if we listen to the murmur of bees like Simonopio does, we are obliged to listen to our own life and our own inside murmur.
Yes, thank you. I love that. What scene for you was the most pivotal for the book?
So this is a story that takes place during wartime. So everything is important, right? But there's this scene where what happens is that Simonopio looks away and disconnects with what matters to him, because he also loves to go to see all these spectacles and the storytellers, and so there's this scene at the river, and he is there's going to be a spectacle there, and he's so looking forward to that that he misses what's going to happen. He doesn't. He disconnects with his senses, and he just is connected to what the joy of looking at the spectacle, and that's when the most pivotal moment of the novel happens to me. It just went the other way because Simonopio failed to be perfect.
Right. Okay. what scene resonated most with you personally in either a positive or negative way, and why?
There are so many, but it was very painful to me that scene where the mother who's lost her child is inside her mind and is going like a bit crazy with this frenzied calling to her son. And what I realized was that I was recalling or bringing back to life the weeping woman. You remember that legend? The weeping woman legend. It's very Mexican, and it's so true, and it's so current, and it's so of every day. It might be a legend, but I realized then, because I was writing in 2010, and Mexico was in real trouble because of the war against drugs and everything. And what I wrote was every mother's pain. Yeah. And I wrote what the pain I imagined every mother in the world would feel because she has lost a child. Not to death, but lost, just
the unknown.
The unknown. No whereabouts, nothing. And that's this calling she has, this Francisco, where are you? And I just realized I was enacting one of my worst fears from childhood, the weeping woman calling to her children. And I realized that every woman could be that. So it was very painful.
Yes. Oh, man. I felt it when I read it. I wanted to just get out and sit there with her and wait with her. That's you made it powerful. You did.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to get, because we're getting a little bit less on time, I'm going to try to get more into the story.
Okay.
Were there any particular quotes that stood out to you? And I know there was one quote that I had read, and I can't find it. Let me see if I can find it here at the moment. But it was in regards to see with your skin, or to, it was at the end of the book. I can't recall it by memory right now, but do you know what I'm speaking of?
Yeah, I also cannot remember it by heart, but I can know the feeling, and that's what we were saying a little bit earlier on, that it's a call to listen closely, pay attention, and not only listen with your ears, listen with your skin, listen with your heart, listen with everything you are, because life speaks to us. And that's what that means. And it's Simonopoulos' whole, I think, reason for being is, I don't know, at least he became my teacher. I wrote him, but I don't know, it was a very strange effect. I was like realizing all these profound messages, and he made me stop and listen more, and try to listen closely and pay attention to life and to myself, to my murmur.
Right.
And that was that message.
Right. What was the significance of making him being disfigured?
Well, it was kind of painful to do that, but I think he's there from the first paragraph. He starts the novel. And I really felt this mystery surround him, and I realized I wanted him to keep his mystery, his mysterious air around him. And I realized that people who don't speak are mysterious. People who speak as much as I do, are not that mysterious. But he is. He has this air of mystery around him, and I realized he had to have this handicap. Right. But his handicap became, I think, a bonus for him, because when he wasn't a speaker, he became a listener. And he needed to be a listener to listen to the bees and to listen also to other characters' truth. And so that's why he became that. And I just discovered it through him. So it was an amazing discovery for me.
I think it strengthened his other senses.
Exactly.
And that's what made it so beautiful, I think. And I wanted to know him more in the book because of that.
And I didn't know I was going to go there, but he also became this character who calls for love or for suspicion and superstition because he's so different. And then I started getting into this, and I realized that love is no different. And so I love having Simonopio there because it's also a call for us to realize that we should love. And when we love, we won't see any defects. There are no monsters when they are loved.
Yes. Yes. Okay. What do you think will happen next with our main characters, Francisco and Simonopio and Nana Reja?
Next, by the end of the book? It's an open ending. It's an open ending.
I know. It just ends, and I'm like,
everybody wants to know. Everybody wants to know what happens next. Well, you see, when I created each of the characters, I realized that the bees, Simonopio and Nana Reja, were a unit. They became like this triangle, and like a triangle of creation. And what I realized was that I was writing like a mythology for the northeast of Mexico. We don't have a mythology, and like the Mayans do, and we don't. And so I realized that maybe this could pass as a mythology of the creation of life in the northeast of Mexico. And Nana Reja, I started to transform herself in my mind as this more than an old lady. She was Mother Earth, and the bees are life. And Simonopio was the enabler or the one who made everything possible, right? Because they do transform the life and even nature around them. And so what I imagine is that they are still there in that bridge where time doesn't pass. They're still there with Francisco now. And they are still taking care that life goes on. That life in the nature goes on. And that life in Linares and all that region where we have so many orange trees, it keeps on prospering because bees are necessary, but the bees also need someone to take care of them. So I think they're there. Mother Earth that takes care of everyone, and it's bountiful and plentiful as Nana Reja was, and earlier in her life. And then the bees and Simonopio.
Right. I think that's beautiful. The analogy you just put together, and you made my brain instantly just connect, and that was just, I think, beautifully said. And I think you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. I love that. Okay. I guess the last question would, I don't know if we're doing the last question or not, but what did you learn, take away, or get out of writing this book?
Really, well, there's some history aspects to this novel, and what I learned was that my grandfather and grandmother lived in this period in Linares. This is not their story, but I have never connected. Me being a city dweller, I had never connected to the farmlands in Mexico, to the countryside, And I just knew my grandfather. He passed away when I was 9, but I knew him as this person with a great sense of humor, but also with this very quiet moment, very a bit dark moment. And I realized now, when I was writing the novel, that he had lost so much. He had lost so much, and he had to cut his roots. And I realized that he did have this great sense of humor, but his dark spaces, it was when he was remembering and the pain, and he never talked about the pain. And that's what I think happens with many people who leave their everything behind, and they don't want to pass on the pain. And that's when the memories die, and you don't pass them on to the next generation. And so,
but I think that's also with. Oh, go ahead.
No, please.
Right, I feel like it's also with our culture as well, right? Even with my grandparents, I think it's the same way. I think across the board, our culture is that way. They don't like to talk about the pain. It's painful for all of them, and they keep it down. Mm-hmm.
Because they're very strong people. We have to realize that. That's what I realized, that my grandparents were very strong, and they did everything they could for the next generation, for their children and their grandchildren. And so they kept everything inside to make life easier for us in the city, or for you in the United States, or wherever we are. And it's true, it's cultural, but I also think that it's very, very common in everybody that has been a migrant or a refugee.
Yes.
And that's why I do think I learned to be compassionate towards my grandfather, and to realize that I am connected, and I am here today in this world, and I am possible because he did what he did to save the future. And I'm very grateful.
Yes, indeed. I love that.
You can continue,
okay,
Stephanie.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said you can ask another question since we started a few
one more
minutes late.
question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, let's do this. As a child, what did you want to do when you grew up? Something totally different.
Well, as a child, I wanted to be a football player, and I wanted to be a chemist, and I wanted to be everything. I was a little tomboy, and but I had this. I played with dolls, and then I went out to play football, and loved that. And I think what I wanted to be the most, and I do realize I achieved that, was I never wanted to stop reading. And so whatever else I've become, and whatever long road I have taken, I have been true to that.
What do you think the little girl back then would think of the woman you are today?
I think she would be very surprised because she didn't know she could dream about writing, the books she so much enjoyed reading, and I would love to see her face when she realized.
Yes.
At the same time, I'm happy she didn't. Nobody told her that would be her future, because then I think maybe she would have been afraid. And by the time I started writing my first novel, I made my mind not to be afraid. And that's what I don't miss the years I dedicated to everything else, even to having a family, or even to writing plays or writing this and that, because I think that those years built me to be the person I am today.
I highly agree. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing your words. I think you have a lot to say, and I look forward to your next book.
Thank you for inviting me, comadre.
Please, thank you.
I enjoyed our talk very much. Thank you.
Thank you, me too. Have a great night.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now it is my pleasure to introduce you to Comadres Vita Ayala. I will interview them as well. Vita Ayala is a queer Afro-Latinx writer out of New York City, where they live with their wife and cat sons. Their work includes The Wild from Black Mask Studios, Supergirl from DC, Xena Warrior Princess from Dynamite, Morbius, the Living Vampire from Marvel, and Livewire Valiant, and Submerged from Vault, among others. Welcome, Vita. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm recovering from hearing that interview. It was really moving.
Yes, it was. It's an excellent, excellent novel. But now we get to talk about your wonderful work. So, thank you. So, for our readers listening in, and maybe those who may not have had a chance to pick up Livewire and read it, can you tell us a little bit about Amanda Livewire?
Yeah, absolutely. So Livewire is a character in the Valiant universe. Valiant is a comic book publisher, for those who don't know. And they have a shared universe of a lot of really cool characters. So Livewire, a.k.a. Amanda McKee, is a Psyod, which is the super-powered people in the Valiant universe. And her power is she can control all technology with her mind. She's kind of like a slightly less evil Siri. She's actually a good guy. But, Livewire, the series, is about Amanda, who, prior to the series, got into a battle with the U.S. government because they came for her kids, and so she accidentally turned off the whole country, which did not turn out very well. People got hurt, which was not her intention. She just wanted them to kind of stop. And so in her own series, she's on the run from the government, who have branded her a terrorist, and she's trying to find a way to get back to being a hero and to get back to helping people when she's lost the trust of the people. And so it's kind of a redemption arc, as well as kind of commenting on a bunch of stuff that's happening in the world, both in real life and in the Valiant universe. But you don't really need to read anything else for Valiant if you don't want to read Livewire, but there's a bunch of cool stuff that you can.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I did notice that in the book, there's little flashbacks. I hadn't read any of the other Valiant books to know who Livewire was, so I was glad to see those little bits coming back to get a bit of backstory there.
We tried to do our best to kind of give people as much context as they needed in the book itself, just because, it's a lot to ask someone to read 75 books. If you want to just read the one book, you want to make sure you can.
Wow, so Livewire, Livewire has been featured in 75 different books?
Quite a few. There were probably a half dozen other series of various names that she's been in, but Livewire, the book, is the first one that is solely concentrated on her.
Solely concentrated.
There was one other book that came. There's one other book that came right before that features her very prominently, called Secret Weapons, and it's about her and her kids. So it kind of is a really good primer. But we, like I said, we tried to do as much as we could to just give you everything you needed within the series.
Yeah. I was glad to see as I read through the book, those other little snippets which helped, pull it together. And I know that there are several more books of this in the works, right? There's two others.
Yeah.
There's The Guardian and The Champion.
Yeah, I Guardian is now in the wild. You can go and find it. And Champion, I'm not sure when it drops. Where's it third? In about 2 weeks that'll be available. So all three will be available pretty soon. But it was a year-long project. So
Wow, I can only imagine. So I'm sure we'll learn more about her. For those of us who have picked up Livewire as book one, and myself included, we'll learn more about the backstory, I'm hoping, in these future books.
You'll get more backstory, and you'll also we're continuing the arc of kind of redemption, and we move her more into the world. I think the first kind of book, the first volume, was about recalibrating who she was as a character and introducing people to who Amanda is, like, internally, and then the second is going, all right, now what do we do with that? Let's go out into the world and see how she tries to help people even when she herself needs help.
So can you tell us a little bit about the writing process for a graphic novel? Because a graphic novel, we're looking at the pictures in addition to the words. So can you tell us a little bit about the writing process for writing a graphic novel?
Yeah, absolutely. For this particular project, I didn't know who my artists would be before I wrote the first issue, or rather, I knew who they were, but I hadn't interacted with them yet. And so I did a lot of prep work and a lot of groundwork. I write full scripts, which means I include not only descriptions but dialogue, but I make it very clear to my artists that they can completely, like, just do what they think actually makes sense. I am not an artist myself, so I know that they know how to do what they're doing way better than I do. So I try to give as much context to a scene as possible, and then I was told by an artist a long time ago that in the description part, they want an action and an emotion, and for me to move out of the way, and I took that to heart. So I give a lot of, like, feeling and emotion and background stuff, and then when I go into the descriptions, it's a lot more clean cut. I usually will outline an entire arc of a series, so like a whole graphic novel at once, and then write each individual chapter after a very detailed outline. I worked very closely with the editors on this project especially, which is really great. And then after the first issue, I actually started talking with the artists, and we would email all the time. And so I tried to incorporate as much of kind of what they wanted to do in my script so that, you know, it was easier for them. They didn't have to do as much work reimagining stuff that I had written down. It's really collaborative. I love working with people. If you don't like working with people, don't work in comics. That is my advice. You know, I've done prose, and I've done, you know, other kinds of writing that is just kind of you and the page, but I really love the interaction of writing comics, and I really love, and this I think is not wholly unique to comics, but kind of like it's one of the cool features about comics is that the reader is as much creating the world as, you know, the writer, the artist, the letterers, the editors, the colorists, because we only give you, you know, on a page you get maybe 5 panels, right? You have to put together as the reader what happened in between the panels. And that could be anything. That's really dependent on you, and I think that is the coolest part. So for me, I try and think about that final experience as much as possible when I'm writing. So I'm like, I want to pull you in and kind of not make you do work. I don't want you to work, but I want you to be as engaged as possible.
Of course.
Yeah.
I think every author does that, whether it's in a graphic novel or in a regular fiction novel. You want to pull the reader in and have our imaginations work along with your words, and in your case, with the pictures that go along with us to take us on the ride, to have us right there with the characters, the superheroes, as they go through everything. It's really amazing. You mentioned that you've done other works, prose, and would we ever see a novel or a book of poetry from you down the line?
I would love to write a novel. It is a very different beast, and I have so much respect for Sofía, because It is different muscles. I feel like for me, writing comics is a sprint, a very intense sprint, but it's a sprint. And then you kind of hand it off to the next person in the line and you all work together. Whereas with a novel, it's you, it's like going 12 rounds of boxing. Like it's just you and your shadow just going.
Right.
But I really want to. I would love to. I'm not a poet, unfortunately. My parents are both poets. And
Wonderful.
so, of course, I cannot. But, yeah, I would love to write, to be someone that has published novels or plays even. I really enjoy plays as well.
Well, I think the graphic novel is getting you into that rhythm with the play, because there's so much that goes into the backstory in the play and the lighting and the scene and what you want those who are watching it to experience. I think you're well on your way to that. How long? Go ahead.
So I was going to say, I grew up in New York City, and my parents were super into that scene and, and poetry and all that kind of stuff. And to me, like, one of the best parts about being a Puerto Rican in New York is how that kind of life is like, it's part of the fabric of the experience of being Puerto Rican in New York is that kind of art. And so it's like I'm trying to connect to that in a new medium, basically.
Mhm. Absolutely. How long does it take you? I mean, I know the Livewire Fugitive book has 4 chapters. Is that how you refer to them?
Yes, chapters
in the book?
or issues.
4 issues in the book. So how long does it take you to complete each chapter with the back and forth with the illustrator? Do you say, I want the color, I need this color to come out a little different, or how long does it take you to complete?
So let's see here. For me, okay, starting just with the script. The script will take me anywhere between kind of half hour to an hour per page that you see.
Okay.
So that's just the scripting. So anywhere between 10 and 20 hours to write the script. And then the artists get it, and the artists spend so much more time. An artist can take anywhere between, 3 to 7 weeks for line work. And then colorists will come in and do their thing. And it varies, but
right.
They generally about, I would say, 5 to 7 weeks for a complete kind of product for each issue. Although, again, some people are a little faster and some people take a little bit more time. But generally, we also, these were released as monthly installments, right, as issues. So you want to have a couple already done before you start releasing them, just in case.
Oh, I'm sure. And it's, not only just getting it written and the art done and then the coloring done, but printing it and putting it all together and getting it ready so that people don't realize the amount of time that it takes to get things into print. It doesn't happen overnight.
Oh. It's amazing. Yeah, people really don't realize. My favorite thing is that, I don't know, I think it was in the collected book, but some of the pre-order editions of Livewire had behind-the-scenes stuff in the back, and so you could see.
Yes,
I
saw
that.
The
script, the art, I love that kind of stuff. I'm always so fascinated, and so when I saw they put it in the book, I was like, oh, that's really exciting. So you get kind of a look at like what the beginning product looks like versus like you have the finished product in your hand. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of people all working at the same time, though. So. They keep the trains running on time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I love seeing all the optional or the alternate covers, and it's just amazing. I think it made me see Livewire just in all the different ways, just to see her, it flushed her out. It made her fuller. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I totally agree. I love that stuff.
Yeah. I thought it was really, really amazing. So, what can we expect in the upcoming books?
So
Guardian and Champion.
Yeah, Guardians takes place very, very close after Fugitive, and it is about Livewire. There are these kids that go missing, basically these superpower kids, these psyops, and no one knows what's going on. And she finds where they are going, but it turns out that it might actually not be a bad thing, and she has to kind of wrestle with the idea that, like, you know, there are people that are quote unquote caring for these kids that say that they have their best interest in mind. Is that true? And who am I to evaluate that? While also, of course, it's a superhero book, so there's definitely plenty of action. But it's kind of her kind of trying to reevaluate whether she always has the answers or not.
Okay.
And as someone so powerful, it's really important for her to kind of think about that, because when she does things, when she makes mistakes, they're very big mistakes, so she doesn't want to do that again. So it's her kind of finding her confidence to be a hero in the real world again.
Excellent. And I wanted to ask, what was your inspiration on you know, I love, as I mentioned to you and Sofía and Stephanie earlier, I'm here in Philadelphia at ALA, where I'm looking for books written by Latino authors, and you know, finding a book and finding a graphic novel with Latinx characters is really amazing. And how important do you think that is today going forward?
I think it's incredibly important. I think that, so with Livewire, I didn't own the character of Amanda at all. She was pre-existing, but they did let me create characters, secondary characters, and kind of antagonists and all these other people to populate the book. And one of the things that I wanted to do was just add as much to that world in terms of representation that I could. And that went for good guys and also for the antagonists, because I think that a well-rounded, you know, bad guy is a good bad guy.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I got to create characters that were, for example, I created a non-binary, you know, Latinx character for the book, who was an antagonist, and you've read it, so you've seen. But there's someone who grew up with Livewire, and so they know her, and so there's that kind of relationship. And I was like, you know, we get to be everything everywhere. Like, we shouldn't only be one thing. So to me, like, adding as much of that as possible is really important.
Yeah, I really think it's important, and excuse me, I'd like to thank you for what you're doing, for sharing all the colors of our rainbow that we are, you know, in these books, and continue to keep up the good work.
Thank you. You know, when I get to do my own books, I try and do that as much as possible too. I think representation is incredibly important because it gives us hope, and you know, it shows us that we have a future. I remember being a kid and, like, you know, I told the story, so I won't tell the whole story, but I misidentified Wonder Woman as Puerto Rican for many reasons. I was wrong, clearly. But I thought she was Puerto Rican, and as a little kid, I was like, that's the coolest thing ever. You know, I can be a hero, too. And then by the time I was corrected, there were other, you know, kind of people that I could then look to who were actual, like, Latinx representation. But, I want that for everybody. I want everyone to see themselves and to think that they can be anything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, once again, we appreciate you sharing with us, and we look forward to reading more about Livewire and in the future books, and we continue to look forward to reading your work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Vita. Comadres Sofía, Vita, Stephanie, we are so grateful for the insightful interviews and for spending time with us this evening. We enjoy the sharing of perspectives and insight from your work and your life. We treasure the opportunity to learn about you and about your work, and we feel more connected to you. Once again, we'd like to thank publishers Amazon Crossing and Valiant for their support of this teleconference and for their generous gift of books for winners of early registration. We would like to thank our audience for taking the time to join us for this teleconference, and thank you for those that submitted questions. We'd like to thank Comadre Maria Ferrer for the media coordination and the Twitter chats, and to Comadre Dora for the web work that she does for us. Without this volunteer leadership team, this book club and all the associated work would not happen. Mil gracias. Please remember to carry the books you're reading, always displaying the title, and shamelessly advertise what you're reading. Buy books to support our authors, and if your library does not have a book that you want to read, ask them to order it. And please, attend your local book club meetings and bring a friend or two. Remember, it's open to everyone, men and women, and not just Latinos. Our February 2020 teleconference is on Monday, February 24th. Our book of the month is Dominicana, a novel by Angie Cruz. Our conversation with book is A River of Love, a novel by Amy Medina Carter. Look for the teleconference registration announcement coming soon. We will be making a change from Yahoo Groups to Groups.io to continue our email distribution list, and you will receive a message about this change shortly. Mil gracias y buenas noches to all. Thank you again.